All right, we'll have now Beth Fukumoto will be speaking on a minority report. Please, Beth.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members and guests. It's an honor to have the opportunity to serve you again this year as this body's minority leader and to work with you, the majority leader, and the rest of my colleagues on solutions to our state's biggest problems. I'd also like to thank my minority colleagues for your unanimous vote to support me as leader this year. In my past opening day speeches, I didn't talk much about policy. Instead, I focused on the importance of working together and encouraging dialogue on every policy. Mr. Speaker, you and your majority have responded by listening to our ideas and incorporating our opinions in this legislature. Like in our state, I think we've learned that there is strength in diversity. That said, Mr. Speaker, I would like to talk a little more about issues this year because I think our present situation demands it. This session, we're facing a sizable budget deficit, as you just mentioned, and the natural inclination of government is always to raise revenues and cut spending to find immediate solutions to impending problems. We may need to take some of those actions, Mr. Speaker, but we'd be doing a disservice to the people of Hawaii and to future generations if that is all we do. 2 years ago, when I got elected as minority leader, I mentioned to this body that I was the first millennial to serve in this position. In 2016, I was also the youngest female in the country to hold a caucus leadership position. I give you these statistics to remind you that I speak for a growing demographic in this state who can no longer afford to live in a place that we grew up in and love. For us, Hawaii is not just paradise, it's our home, and we can't afford it anymore. Mr. Speaker, we talk a lot about the cost of living, and I know the governor and others have already proposed tax increases. I'm sure there will be many more for us to look at this year. I hope that if your majority chooses to act on those increases, that you will do so with caution and consider making those increases temporary. As minority members, we will be proposing measures to encourage tax equality and lessen the tax burden on middle and lower individual earners, recognizing that in the face of a deficit, these may be long-term ideas. But as a body, we should never lose sight of the goal to make Hawaii more affordable for its residents. In terms of affordability, Mr. Speaker, the biggest thing we can do this session to help local families is to address our rising housing costs. In 2015, a nationwide survey of cities found that Honolulu had the 4th largest percentage of residents departing. When over 52% of a Hawaii resident's income goes towards fixed costs like housing and transportation, we can conclude that housing prices are a major reason for residents, particularly young people, leaving our state. This year, Mr. Speaker, you will see minority members contributing a variety of measures that offer housing solutions for individuals and families at every level of need, from homeless individuals who need temporary housing to middle-income wage earners that want to buy their first home at an affordable price. As a local economist pointed out, Hawaii has become a preferred place for the international 1% to buy property. This desire to purchase paradise is making it harder and harder for local residents to keep Hawaii their home. And, Mr. Speaker, we look forward to working with you and the majority to reverse that trend. Every year, this legislature comes up with a handful of measures to address housing and homelessness, but those are not enough. By 2025, we will be short nearly 65,000 housing units in our state, and many of our local families will be priced out of their communities if we don't increase the availability of affordable housing. This, Mr. Speaker, is a crisis. We need to start treating it like a crisis. Local families have watched this state become less and less affordable for decades. It's time to find the political courage to take risks, to pass real reform, and to solve that problem. Together, we can take control of our future. We need to be leaders that listen to the needs of the people that we represent. We need to hear the concerns of recent college graduates who return home only to find that their home has undervalued them in favor of out-of-state financiers. And we need to find a way to take care of those working families who can make an average wage but can't earn a sufficient living. We were once a state that not only took care of the everyday people, we made sure they felt accomplished. We made sure that anyone, regardless of race, ethnicity, gender, and socioeconomic status, saw a better life as something achievable and something to aspire to. We can be that state again. We have difficult decisions in front of us, and most of those decisions will need to be made quickly. But a comprehensive plan to address housing at every level of need can't be put aside just because of a budget deficit. We can't keep planning our state's economy in 2-year cycles. We may need some short-term fixes, but we also need a long-term economic plan. That long-term plan must include making it easier for our young people, our working families, and our retirees to stay and live in this state that they call home. Mr. Speaker, we look forward to working with you in the majority on creating that long-term plan to reduce the cost of living for our local residents. Finally, Mr. Speaker, I want to close by acknowledging and thanking our Mililani High School students that are in the gallery and sitting with me today here on the floor. Everything we're doing here and everything I'm talking about is really to make a better future for you guys. So thanks, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, members and guests, for listening. Thanks.
Thank you very much, guys. Thank you very much.